All right, Blaine Mathews, we just wrapped up King of Kelly's first race at night. How'd you do there? What'd you think of all this?
Yeah, no, it was definitely something new. It was obviously the first time in history for RMSHA racing under the lights. It was pretty unique. It was a learning curve for all of us. Personally, I had pretty decent results. I was really close in a few classes. Once again, Keith and I were within like a couple hundredths of each other, and the clock favored his side. But that's what makes racing good. It's good to be that close and a lot further away. So I take that as a positive thing than say 3 or 4 seconds. But it was a good weekend. It was cool to see. I think a lot of people enjoyed it. The race itself, maybe wasn't the steepest hill on the circuit or the longest, but I think we made the best of it. And it seemed like the people that came to watch really enjoyed it. It was just a whole new aspect being in the evening, a different vibe. I think a lot of people were kind of liking that. So I hope we can take that as a circuit and maybe turn into future venues something similar to that.
So yeah, you were saying a second in open stock and second in open mod, both of those classes. Yeah, you were within a hundredth of a second of Keith on a
Yeah, it
hill
was
where it was hard to find any time on that.
and it was nine stock and nine mod. I remember the two classes. I was pretty early out in all the classes, so I knew I had to kind of put a pretty good run together, and it was tough. It was super easy to lose a lot of time, and super hard to be perfect in that course. It was slick, tight. It was like slick, tight, and technical all at once. So had a lot of different features, but yeah, in nine stock, I think he got me by 200ths of a second, and then in nine mod, it was like 2/10, I believe. So. Um, good racing, and that's ultimately what people come to watch is some good racing. So hopefully going into Jackson, we can be on the other side of that, and that's the goal.
So do you look back at the after you get the times and after the race is over and you got a day or two to think about it? Do you look back and think, oh man, at that gate I could have done this or I could have gone over this? I know there were some big holes. Mentaberry got swallowed up in a hole on one of his final runs, and do you think back and try to find where you could have shaved off another, I don't know, hundredth of a second?
Oh, absolutely. And it never stops. Honestly, when I get down to the bottom of the hill, right after my run, they said, "Oh, you got a good time. You're sitting in the lead. Here's your time." And I went, "Man, like I still feel like I lost a half a second or something, in a couple of spots." And it's so crazy what tiny little bobble can add up to be quite a bit, actually. And I don't know that really any of us ever had perfect runs. Everybody was making little bobbles here and there, but that was just the kind of course it was. So whenever you get home, you're like, man, if I just was clean here or clean there, like, yeah, I could have made up that half a second or a full second, but everybody's doing it too, Yeah, say Keith beat me by 200ths and I thought I could have made up another half second. Well, he probably has the same in his run too. He probably had a bobble somewhere that he didn't, wasn't as clean as he wanted to be, but that's just nature of racing, and you got to take it as it is, and, okay, next time just try to be even more perfect in the next run.
So, what did you think about the hill itself? Like, I was surprised when I got back up there and you guys were running close to a minute. I was expecting like a 40-second run time. There's just not a lot of mountain to work with there.
Yeah, no, that's it. It was a shorter hill, and obviously, a lot of a different type terrain than we're used to. A little more flat on top, that short bottom face. But the way it was gated, it was unique. It was super tight, and fairly technical because of the snow conditions. That snow was super dense in the bottom. And so, it never really just grooved up. It just kind of, the berm just kind of pushed on top. There was a little bit of soft snow, but it was just rock hard underneath. And so cool race, tough. It was very tough. There was, I think, a lot of racers, fairly frustrated because they just couldn't get the flow going. But honestly, I think all of us kind of felt that way. It was hard to just have a run that you felt like you were grooving and flowing. But at the end of the day, that's what we need is, being top racers in this industry is, tough conditions. So no complaints from me at all.
What was it like racing at under the lights? I mean, they had a few lights up. It wasn't really, super lit up. And some of your sleds, maybe, you had headlights, but some of the mods didn't even have headlights. And you can't put lights on your helmets. Like that's against the rules, right? So what's it like
Yeah,
in the
yeah. So
dark?
we have an ISR rule that states, no devices of any sort on the helmet, which is to me, in my opinion, I think it's kind of, silly, because I would rather have something on my visor that I know is going to break away over, say, a chest harness over my heart that's going to be stuck there, if I was to crash. But that's just a personal opinion. But the lights, it was unique. They're, again, a learning thing. How many lights did we need? We really didn't know, until you go racing. So, if we do it again, and I think we'll add a few more lights, because there was a few pretty dark spots in my Mod King run. I struggled because I just couldn't quite see in a few zones that good. It was starting to get pretty choppy and slick and rough, and I just couldn't charge into them. Instead, I was just full pinned and fully on the brakes too. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the pictures of my sled absolutely glowing. But, and that's it. I'm trying to go as fast as I can, but there's just a few awkward spots where it was just shadowy and dark enough that I wasn't sure exactly where I was at in the groove. And, just
So
cost me a little
what are you
time.
doing there though? Are you just like pinning it and hoping to keep the skis up in case you hit something, or what's the thought process? What's the approach?
Like, honestly, if there were some spots there, you kind of felt like you're, like, on the mod, kind of felt like you were riding by a braille a little bit, like you were trying to feel. I knew where the course went, and I knew kind of what was there, but it's always kind of changing. So, and I want to be fast, especially in those king runs. And I just find myself, like, obviously you want to be on the gas moving, but it was like kind of this timidness because I couldn't tell exactly what I was running into or what I was in for sure, like the details of that spot. So I would just hold the brake, that way if I could let go of the brake, I was accelerating. But it's something personally I've always kind of been bad at, is riding the brakes. It's not, I don't think it's a completely bad thing, but that run was definitely way worse than any in the past, and I think that was it. I just didn't feel 100% confident charging. And again, I should have tried to figure out how to mount a light on the mod. A lot of those other guys did. I know Keith and Andy and Sam and those guys had lights mounted on their mods, and I think it helped a little bit because in them dark corners they could just see a little bit. When I think back to my stock King run with my stock turbo, that headlight and those dark spots, it would just kind of shine a little bit on some of them holes, and I could see a lot better. I could kind of charge into it, where the mod, I just didn't feel confident because I wasn't sure, am I going to hit a side of a rut real weird or what? But it was cool. Like, it was cool to experience. I wouldn't mind going back. I think we should add a few more lights, but it was just a learning race for everybody, and overall it's still a good weekend.
So you got 4 races under the belt for the season so far. Next up is Jackson. How has your sled set up and all of that kind of progressed? Are you happy with where your sled's at? Do you have big changes in mind for Jackson? What are you doing working for that?
Yeah, definitely some changes coming. I treat every race, as pretty much a test session for Jackson. That's the big race we all focus on, and I've pretty much been changing something on my sleds, pretty minimally, but something almost every race. And it's just learning. What do we take from the last race? Where can we work? On that sled? Okay, let's make a little change, not go too far, and see if we're going in the right direction. And along with that, just practicing and testing and tuning in general outside of the races. We do a lot of that. So, but definitely stoked for Jackson. That's the Super Bowl of what we do, and it's the one that we need to make everything happen. But definitely have a few changes for the sleds, a little bit of suspension stuff, and then just some some tuning to try to get it working a little bit better. But overall, feeling pretty good for Jackson.
All right, Blaine Mathews 230. If you're watching Jackson Hole coming up, watch for this guy. Nice run at Kelly's though. That had to be heartbreaking, but nice run there.
Hey, thanks, man. I sure appreciate it.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
You bet. See ya.
Keith Curtis. Hey, we just wrapped up King of Kelly's. Not a bad weekend. Not a bad weekend for you.
Very good weekend.
First sweep of the year, 5 for 5 in your classes, plus all 3 Kings. What was that course like? I mean, your wins were pretty close. You had a couple that were a couple seconds, and then you had one that was like a 100th of a second. Like, how close was it?
Yeah, these are the weekends I live for, and obviously super happy with the results. Happy to have this momentum rolling into Jackson. The course itself was interesting. Like, when I first glanced at the hill, I was like, this is not going to be much of a hill climb. And the first run I went up, I was like, okay, this thing's definitely not like super steep or technical in a certain way, but it's really demanding because of all the turns and all the bumps, and it kind of has some man-made and uh, real snow and some different layers in there and different ice, and linear footage-wise, it was actually a fairly long race, around a minute, but the actual vert you gain was, I don't know, 300-400 feet. So definitely like much different than any other hill climb that we've had. But it was more like a hill cross race, and you got to get in rhythm, and you got to get in the flow, and you got to be smooth and fast, and smooth and really fast, because there's not a whole lot of time to make up if everyone's running the same lines, which there might have been a few different options for line choices, but most of the top racers were running the same lines. It was a matter of just being efficient and fluent through those lines.
So how were you able to find time on the course? Like you said, it was pretty much one line, and there were some big holes in there, especially on the finals runs and king runs. I mean, you guys were crossing the old qualifying ruts that looked pretty icy.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess as far as making up time, I mean, it's kind of like riding single track on a dirt bike. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you got to make sure that you're going as quick as you can on that course, and if it's kind of like a single track. You know what I mean?
I've seen you ride single track, and we ride two different styles of single track.
Well, and I don't know. That's the way I look at it. And same with the snowmobile. Like, I feel like the quicker you are on a single track trail, the quicker you're going to be on a course like King of Kelly's.
So do you prefer this style of super technical, maybe not so much straight up the mountain?
No, I mean, it was a great event. Like, the location's awesome, and like super fortunate to be racing in a ski area. But like, I mean, if I was to compare King of Kelly's to Jackson, there's no comparison, because I like the big vert, I like the big head walls, I like the deep trenches. I like it all. And like the bottom part of Jackson, it's a little bit hill crossy down there. I like courses where you can get the whole blend of racing in there. You know what I mean? That require the different techniques and skills to get through it.
Right. Yeah. And nothing really compares to Jackson, but comparing it to like Bear Lake and Afton, it was definitely a different deal.
It was kind of fun, and I mean, racing in the dark definitely threw a new vibe to it, and I did actually kind of enjoy that. So I think if it was just in the daytime, finals time, I don't know, I'd probably have a little different feeling about it, but like, since it was under the lights, it kind of added that new element to racing and some new vibes, and I kind of like that. Overall, I thought the race was pretty fun for what it was, and the local crew there, Mason and Colby and those guys, they did a good job with and made the most out of it for what it was.
Yeah, they definitely did. I was talking to Mason, and he liked the format because the break kind of gave it a main event night show type feel. You raced all day or Saturday morning, and then you took a break, and then started getting dark. The lights came on, and we fired up the pro classes and started racing under the lights like a main event. And
yes, that part was pretty cool. It reminds me of the night show at Endurocross in a way. It's like people gather there for a few hours in the dark and a couple hours in the dark, and it made for a good viewing and good showing. And they're actually like, I was pretty surprised by the amount of people who showed up, which, I mean, Idaho Falls is a very highly sought after community for recreation. So it was pretty cool to have everyone there, and like even the autograph signing was super busy and fun to meet and greet and sign some posters.
Yeah, and I think parking was the limiting factor. There were people turning around, you're about a mile down the road, parking on the side of the road, turn around and leaving. But yeah, it was a good event in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, parking, if they can get that figured out with the shuttle type system next year, that'd probably be better, as long as they can figure out a place for all the vehicles down below.
Would you like to see more night events, like more of this format, or just kind of a one-off each year?
I kind of like just the one-off. I mean, it is kind of fun, but at the same time, like, as long as the hill has some technicality and fun and ski areas, that's all I'm looking for. And it's tough because, like, traveling with the family, that part makes it tough. And like another night away and another really late night on the road. So I don't know. I'm fine with the one-off night event, but I probably wouldn't want to see them all go to night events.
Yeah, for sure. Talk about racing in the dark. Did you run a headlight on your hood in the mod class, or just in your stock and improved?
So stock improved and stock open, I have headlights on all those sleds. And then 9 mod, it wasn't too dark yet. And then by the time open mod ran around, it was dark, and it was really hard to see. I talked to Mason a little bit about it, and the guy could have put some lights on the lower part of the hill, but being that it was first year, I mean, they did a great job. But definitely a couple more lights could have been placed on the lower part of the hill because it was pretty dark. I was going by Braille there a couple different times, and it got sketchy there for a minute, but it all panned out. And then Kyle Pulsifer came up before Modified King. He's like, "You want to run a headlight?" And I forgot my Oxbow light at home, and he's like, "Here, let's just throw this light on real quick." And it actually helped quite a bit for the Mod King run. I was able to kind of see where I was going.
Yeah, I got to ask you this: we were up there Friday watching you guys run through qualifying, and my wife was kind of gauging you up to a certain gate on the mountain, and she made the comment that it just seems like you kind of turn it on a little bit, and then you see where you're at in qualifying, and then you turn it on a little more for the next class. Are you able to modulate your speed in qualifying? What's your strategy there?
Yeah, I mean, qualifying day, as long as you get in, that's all that really matters. Of course, you don't want to be towards the tail end of the pack. And Jackson qualifying is a little different, right? But for all the other RMSHA races, when there's around 20 people and they take the top 12, you just want to get in there. You don't want, in my opinion, don't want to take too many chances and whatnot. But definitely, I can turn it up and turn it down as needed. To a certain extent, that's why I like the more technical courses. There's just more separators that will separate people's talents, and there should be a decent time gap in between first, second, third, fourth, and fifth.
There wasn't a huge. I mean, you won a couple classes by 2 seconds. 9 stock, you won by maybe 100th or 2 over Blaine Mathews. When you come off the mountain in 9 stock and you see those times, do you think back on the course and you're like, yeah, I could have made it up right there. I could have made it on this corner. I lost time here.
For sure. Yeah. There's certain 9 stock wasn't my cleanest run. Get a feel for the course or whatever, and just, I don't know, certain days can be better than others, but there were definitely a few things in the 9 stock run. I was like, that didn't feel super good, and you're after the run, you kind of run through your run in your mind and kind of gauge it and was I smooth here? Was I smooth here? Did I hit this line? Did I hit this mark? And definitely try to improve for the next run,
Was there a particular spot on this course that you that I don't know, struggled with? It was, maybe that's not the right word with the way your weekend went, but that was the same battle every time you went up.
Yeah, I mean, there were some kind of techie side hills with a bunch of ice on it that were kind of hard to get traction on. So that was kind of difficult sometimes, but I found a groove and kept with it. And then the rhythm section doubles up on top were a bit tricky because there wasn't a huge lip on the jumps, and you really had to preload it and jump it to make it through there. But in the end, most everyone was kind of rolling the first one and second bump and then doubling up and over into the timing lights. So probably those 2 sections were a bit tricky.
Going into Jackson next weekend, you've got 2 weeks to prepare. Any changes to your sled setup or anything you're doing a little bit different rolling into Jackson?
Yeah, I'm meeting up with the engineers this weekend to test a few things, mainly just some suspension stuff and trying out a little different, testing some different tracks too. So I don't want to change a whole lot because I feel really good on everything, but there's always something to be tested and tried, and maybe it's better, maybe it's not. And we'll go test a few things. And
5 for 5, all 3 Kings. Look forward to watching you next weekend at Jackson, Keith.
Sounds good. We're really, really excited for the big show, and thanks for the call.
All right, man. We'll let you go. Thanks. All right, Garth Kaufman, you had a good weekend there at King of Kelly's. Come away with 3 wins, 6 stock, 6 improved, and 7 stock. What do you think of that event?
It was really fun. It was cool to be racing there. I know that Mason and I have talked about it. He's always wanted to have a race there, and it was so great to be able to go there and race, And I thought the course was really fun. It was really technical, Sometimes that's challenging to make such a difficult course on a ski hill where the snow is compacted and the terrain's not necessarily as steep as some of the other events. But yeah, it was a technical, very challenging course.
Yeah, I was surprised to see the run times, up a little over a minute. I was, looking at the space that they had and the amount of hill that they had to work with. I thought they'd be like 40 seconds or something, but yeah, the course really went just kind of back and forth and a lot of turns. And what were the trenches developing as deep as they usually do, or you weren't getting down to dirt anywhere?
No, they had a lot of snow, and that's, I think, the reason that we weren't into the dirt. But the trenches were deep, and that's what made it technical. You could see there were a lot of high marks, on the bottom half of the hill just because of the deep trenches. And also it was just slick conditions, that snow, the temperatures and the mixture of man-made snow made the snow slick. And I think that added another element of challenge to it as well.
So when you get into finals and you're crossing all the qualifier ruts, and like you said, the course is really technical. Where are you sitting at the bottom looking for places to make up time? Like, are you sitting there at the bottom and you're looking at certain gates, being like, yeah, I can do this on this corner or try this on that rut?
Yeah, for me, and I think most of the time to be made was in the lower half. Well, I should say that it was everywhere, but getting through the corners quickly was what made or break the run, because they were so slick, and it was really difficult to find. The conditions changed so much from the day running to the night running that I missed the mark a lot on setup just for traction. It got really slick at night, and I think just getting through those corners and hooking up made the difference. But also getting over the jumps, carrying speed and scrubbing speed off of the jumps, I think is what was kind of the make or break to win in the morning runs. And then the nighttime stuff was just getting through those corners quick and clean.
So do you like the big, they had on the top half of the mountain, they had some pretty big jumps. Do you like that? Do you want to see more of that?
What I liked about the top section is that it was very technical. It wasn't just that it was big jumps. It was, if you go back from the one before the finish line or the timing gates, you had to go through that corner before that just right to be able to do that next double, and you had to be able to do that double clean to be able to do that double clean. So it was like it was set up, 3 obstacles back, and I love it when it's like that, when it's that technical. That middle double, not a lot of people were able to get all the way over it clean because you had to set up for it just right from that, previous corner. And if you didn't, then it kind of messed up the whole rest of it. So.
Yeah, and it seems like obstacles like that really separate, the top guys from the rest of the field. You had 3 wins, 6 stock, 6 improved, 7 stock. How are you when you're riding this sled versus the other races that you've had? Did you race Bear Lake 1 and 2 and Afton?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Yeah, so you've been competing all season. How are you going into the corners differently in this hard pack icy snow and trying to maintain momentum and everything versus the other races where you've been really digging down to the dirt and ice and the rocks? And
yeah, it's different, and that Bear Lake race and Afton, we're almost down to the dirt right away. So that is, I think to do well at those events, the speed of just side hilling quickly across that frozen dirt, that's kind of the make or break there. There's long side hills, not as much Afton, but at Bear Lake, there's long off-camber side hills with not a lot of snow, so it's slick, but in a different way. So if you can maintain your speed, going across those long icy side hills, that's what kind of would make or break the runs there. Whereas here, I think it's just getting in and out of those corners quickly.
All right. So 4 races down, what adjustments are you making headed into Jackson here in another week?
We're going to do a lot of testing, as everyone is going into Jackson, and it's hard to say because, we're going to be prepared for all conditions, but Jackson last year was so different than we've ever raced, getting back on that the run that we used to race on, and I would say it was a little bit, just because of the conditions, it was a little easier than it has been in the past for finals day, just the way the course layout was, and mostly the amount of snow and traction made it a little more forgiving. But on mod day, it was as hard as I have ever remembered it. So it changed drastically from mod qualifying to finals day last year, and so it could very well do the same this year. So
All right.
I'm not sure what they have for snow conditions, but as you know, with that hill, if there's a lot of snow, you get deep trenches. But if you're above those rock gardens, it makes a big difference. Once you get down to in those slick rock faces, it's really challenging.
Yeah, for sure. It looks like they have quite a bit of snow, so it should be a pretty good event. So, well, Garth, nice work, man. 3 wins and on to the next one, right? So see you at Jackson.
Yep, appreciate it. Yeah, look forward to seeing you there. Take care.
All right, thanks, man. Sam Peterson coming off Kelly Canyon, King of Kelly's RMSHA race, 4th one of the season. You had a pretty good weekend, 2nd in open stock, 2nd in open mod. I mean, real close on some of these runs too, 3rd in 9 mod. And then you win 1,000 stock. How do you think the weekend went for you?
Oh, I thought it was a good weekend, I can't complain. 1,000 stock was a good win, couple seconds off of 2nd place. I think maybe not having old Keith Curtis in that class probably made a difference, but I couldn't manage to beat him. I mean, he was on, and he was liking the course, and it was tough to beat. So I gotta make a few changes as far as setup wise before Jackson, but I'm going to be ready for it, that's for sure.
Yeah, so Keith beat you in open mod by 2 seconds. Where do you see that he's picking up that time on you?
I think in those corners, he's able to carry a lot of momentum out of him, just with his length and leverage, versus me. And I was short on traction. I thought I could get one more race out of my screws before Jackson, and it was a bad call. It cost me for sure. So hoping that we can get that figured out and try to be a little faster than him next race.
What did you think of the course at Kelly Canyon? Not a lot of mountain to work with, but I'm surprised they got the run times up to a minute.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of technical sections on the hill, but we made the little bit that we had technical, and then just a lot of trenches, a lot of big piles of snow to slow us down, and we were able to make do with it. The racing at night was fun for sure. That's something that none of us have ever got to do.
What were the biggest challenges of racing under the lights? Was it were there a lot of shadows and just dark spots on the course, or was that fine?
The lower part of the course, the technical part, didn't have very good lighting, but the top section was lit pretty well. And I think one thing they didn't really think about was when skiers need light on the hill, all the lights are pointed downhill. Well, we're going up the hill and all the lights are kind of in our eyes. So
yeah,
it wasn't bad. I mean, I didn't really notice it too much. So
yeah, it must not have been too bad because the overall times didn't drop off. I thought the run times would get about 3, 4, 5 seconds slower, but everybody seemed to maintain their same qualifying and finals times through the finals and the King runs.
Yeah. No, I was surprised. I mean, I was, other than 9 stock where I kind of had a crash, all of my run times were within a second or two. And I think Keith, he was also in that 58 to 59 all day long. So
what do you have in mind for Jackson? This is the 4th race of the season. You've been to Bear Lake twice, Afton, and then Kelly Canyon. Are you adjusting sled setup quite a bit going through those 4 races, and then are you changing more going into Jackson?
Yeah, it kind of like qualifying is going to be a little different where we're not in the rocks. Just carbides and stuff like that is going to make a little difference, and then depending on if it's, icy ski hill snow, make some suspension adjustments. But, other than that, I mean, all my stuff's been pretty dialed, so.
Do you look for any
Happy
gearing changes or anything when you go to different hills, or you just kind of run what you bring?
Not really. No, you can do whatever you want. I've said this as long as I've been racing Jackson. You can have the fastest sled on the hill. You can be the first one to after that straight stretch, but the biggest thing is just keeping it pinned and keeping momentum on that course.
Well, good luck to you. So we're a week out from Jackson. Looking forward to see what you do there. But nice runs at Kelly's, and hope you carry that momentum in.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on, and excited to see everybody at Jackson. So feel free to stop by the trailer and say hi.
All right, man. Yeah, he's got a little sofa up there in the gooseneck too, so lots of room.
Yep, come on in.
Party in Sam's trailer. All right, see you, Sam.
See ya.
Jay Mentaberry. Man, that was kind of a rough weekend for you. What do you think of the hill and racing at night?
Well, it was very unique and a first for all of us. I thought it was really cool to race at night. Could have used a few more lights, but we all managed to stay safe for the most part. And there was a ton of fast times. Everyone was on their game, and it's like hill climbing. It comes down to making no mistakes to be in the top three or on the podium. So I wasn't able to quite do that. I had a few mistakes, and just that's racing.
So open mod, my wife was down there watching, and she was clocking you guys up to a certain gate, and she thought that you were as fast or faster than Keith and the other guys, but you got swallowed up in a hole there on some of those switchbacks.
Yeah, so in open mod, Keith, I think, was 1 or 2 before me, and he laid down an absolute burner. So I thought to myself, I got to give it everything I have and tried some risky lines. So there was this one section that kind of went across. It was a side hill across the hill, and there was bumps in the track. So I tried to double into the corner, and I was going way too fast and blew the corner. So I ended up doubling in, but couldn't get shut down in time to make the turn, and my run pretty much ended there. But yeah, I felt like I had really good speed. But like I said, if you make one little mistake or get off course, you're done.
Yeah. Racing at night, is that something you want to do more of? It seemed like a lot of guys were scrambling to find clear goggle lenses down there in the stage area and slapping flashlights on their hoods. And
yeah, I think we should definitely do it again. Like I said, it was a first for all of us, so we'll be more prepared if we do it again. And if the venues can, get a little bit more lit up, I think it could be really, really cool, because we had a ton of people show up. I think it's a time that people can come and watch. They're not at work or doing their thing in the day, and it just feels like a other racing series where they race under the lights, especially the premier classes or the premier show is under the lights, like Supercross or anything else.
Yeah, and I honestly like the break going into 9 stock.
Yeah,
and that's kind of hard to judge when that's going to be. But if you could always just say, yeah, we're going to start 9 stock at 5 o'clock and run under the lights, like that's
right.
Pretty cool atmosphere.
Yeah, and then it can become scheduled, and people can plan around that to watch, and racers can plan, just make it a scheduled thing to where it's consistent, and the show starts at 5 or what have you.
And we just need fireworks, lights, music, DJ.
Yeah.
You were getting the groove going there with the lights on your sled there right before your run. I think you could step in and do some DJ skills.
Yeah. The lights and the music were a vibe, man. It was fun.
Oh yeah. So moving on to Jackson, you got a little bit of time to prepare there. What are you working on headed into that race?
I'm making a few adjustments on the sled, suspension-wise. It's taken these first rounds of racing to dial them in and figure out exactly what's going to work, especially for a course like Jackson. But I'm feeling really confident in those changes and just going through the sleds from top to bottom, and then going to go practice pretty hard and also have some fun, go backcountry ride and hit some jumps and kind of take some pressure off that way.
What kind of practice do you do for Jackson?
Typical hill climb practice, go bang a course out and hit it 100 times, and then go backcountry riding and, kind of find a steep, gnarly hill in the trees or wherever and just make a rut and hit it a bunch of times there too. And really technical backcountry riding is great training for hill climbing, in my opinion. So
in what way? Go a little deeper in that. In what way do you think?
Oh, just like side hilling, really steep stuff, especially like if you're third or fourth in a group, you're battling the trenches and the ruts and the obstacles, just picking the line through the trees. It kind of simulates the course at Jackson, because Jackson's like a gnarly steep pull through the trees in the backcountry, just with gates
and vertical head walls and big
and
rocks. Logs, chairlift pole, and a big net. just like backcountry.
We'll just tune that out though. But the rest is synonymous.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, on to Jackson. See you over there next weekend. Good luck.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jay. Andy Thomas. Hey, we just finished up King of Kelly's. Not the best weekend for you. What do you think of that event?
The event was really cool. I felt a little off, but the event was cool. It was cool to race under the lights. It was really cool to see how many people came to watch and support it. I really liked that part. I wonder if we raced under the lights more often, if we'd get more people to come to our events and kind of have a turnout like that. Cross or snowcross or whatever. It just had a pretty cool vibe, and people were able to hang out, and I thought it was really cool.
What do you think about the course? Like it seemed pretty technical and not really like straight up the mountain, straight shot type stuff. But what was it like racing that?
Yeah, it's kind of a more mellow hill, so we had to put the gates at a zigzag, like straight across, back and forth, just to make it a little more interesting. And it definitely was interesting crossing all those old ruts. There's quite a few courses that were made before finals days, so that part of it was all cool. It was different. It was different than anything I've ever raced, and I've been racing for 10, 11 years. So,
what was the toughest part of the hill?
The toughest part was probably those zigzags in the bottom where we were just going straight across, trying to side hill on that ice and across frozen ruts, and then everybody's stopping and turning in the same spot, so it would push the berm down the hill. And so you're kind of like going to the gate and then making a bottom, like going down the mountain to turn up. So that was pretty challenging.
Yeah, it was interesting watching you guys take off from staging, because you would some guys would kind of roll off through the lights, and then some guys would just hammer it. But you were going immediately into a left-hander, and you couldn't build a whole lot of speed there right off the bottom.
No, not that much speed at all. And normally in our races we're able to get quite a bit of speed, and we have at least one or two high-speed corners. So it was different. Definitely took some different talent, different skill, different lines, and yeah, it was cool. It opened my eyes to some things I need to work on personally, and I think it was cool to, like I said, have that many people be able to watch a hill climb.
Headed into Jackson next weekend, so you get a little over a week to prepare. What adjustments, if any, are you making to the sled, or you mentioned you're out practicing this morning. What's your plan going into Jackson?
Going into Jackson, we've had 4 races on our sled, so our tracks are pretty beat up, and a few components need replaced or at least looked at. So we'll give it a good once through on the sleds and replace anything that needs to be replaced, just to make sure we're not going to have any sled failures. And as far as training and all of that, we'll work on a few things that we think we've been struggling on, and other than that, we're just going to load up and head over there. We know how to race, and we know what to expect with Jackson from going there for so many years. So should be a good year. I think there's a lot of snow up there this year. I'm hoping we get some big trenches, some big head walls, and have some of that good old fashioned racing.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Thanks, Andy. All right, Mason Rutledge. So you're the Skidoo factory rep for RMSHA. So you were quite involved on putting King of Kelly's together and putting the course together. You made a long course out of a short area. Like, talk about that whole process.
Yeah, it was kind of challenging because Kelly's obviously doesn't have a ton of vert to deal with. But we thought, if we got creative with the gates and kind of gated it tighter and just did a lot of zigzags back and forth. We knew, we had about 30 inches of compacted snow. So we knew if it was tight, it was going to trench out, get us some just kind of tight trenches, which would make it technical. We just kind of ping-ponged it back and forth and kept it tight. So we were either on the brake or the gas and happened to kind of dig down. Ended up making the course pretty challenging. A lot of times these races we go to, we're wide open for long periods of time, but this time it was quite the opposite. Rarely could get to wide open, and it was just more really had to ride the sled, really pay attention to the lines, and just be in good throttle and brake control. We were able to get the runs around that minute mark, which is awesome because it's longer than some of our other hills. And I think it made for some great racing.
I think it did too, and it was surprising. Like in some of the finals, you had the top 1 and 2 and 3 guys within 100th of a second again, which was surprising on a course like this because there's so many areas where you could make up time in by doing this section together, or the jumps up on top, timing everything so you hit all the jumps just right. So the top guys really nailed everything to get those times so dang close.
Right, for sure. I mean, it was definitely, you could tell, in RMSHA in general right now, the competition's so stacked that little mistakes cost a lot. But yeah, on a tight technical course like Kelly's was, I mean, it really showed, when someone did or didn't make a mistake, and guys that were nearly perfect runs could be right around that minute mark. But the guys that, maybe let out a little too soon or got a little too high or too inside on a berm and spun out, that tacked a quick second on for them.
Yeah, for sure. So for your runs personally, how did you have your traction set up? Did you have enough traction? I've heard from a lot of guys it was pretty icy and pretty hard.
It was kind of weird. So I tend to, when it's going to be slicker, go quite a bit softer, especially on the rear. Just to really get some kind of sag in the sled to help it bite in. But not only was there kind of an ice layer in there, but the snow itself, there's kind of a mixture of natural and man-made snow. And it had warmed up, and so it wasn't powdery or sugary, but it was just kind of I don't even know how to explain it. It was like a kind of a slush. Like when you'd walk down the hill, it was really easy to slip. So outside of the ice, it was really tough to find traction anywhere. You really kind of had to stay on the berms and let your track kind of push against the ruts and stuff for it to bite in.
What do you think about racing under the lights and being in the dark?
It was cool. The first time ever for RMSHA. I think everyone from RMSHA and from Kelly's, we learned some things, and hopefully we'll be back and be able to do it better. But it was cool. It kind of set a whole new vibe to racing. One thing that really stood out to me with it is, we had done some racing in the morning, and then we had this, 2-3 hour kind of intermission through the day. And then when the night show went to get started, they were playing some music. They started with the national anthem, and there was kind of a hype and an opening ceremonies vibe that you get at a lot of other sporting events that we usually don't have in RMSHA. So it was cool to experience that in our industry.
Yeah, and I think that's something that RMSHA has kind of missed. It's a tough format for sure to have to create a lot of outside interest and spectator interest. It's really cool to watch, but it's hard to create that atmosphere. And there's no main event that you just kind of go from qualifying into finals and right into king runs and the day's over. But that was really cool, and I think being at the kind of a ski hill atmosphere like that helped for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the venue was awesome. There a lot of spectators. They had the lodge right there. It was kind of just a real tight, compact, little bit of a kind of intimate feel with everyone there, just because everything was so close to each other, which made for a really, just a cool event. It helped with that, just creating some excitement and hype, like we said, that we usually don't have at these RMSHA races.
So 4 races down. Jackson's coming up next. Where are you at with the sled setup? What are some changes you're making headed into Jackson next week?
Yeah, so sleds, we're right on the right track. We've learned a lot of things this season, making a few adjustments. Jackson qualifying is a big deal. We have some sled work just to get a little more speed out of them for Jackson, because it is such a big, long run and hill. That work kind of gets started this weekend and just rolls right into Jackson next week, and then a couple weekends off, and then we'll finish out the remainder of the RMSHA season.
So to find more speed, do you go into clutching, or are you changing gearing, or is it ECU mapping? What are you looking for?
A little combination of everything. It seems like when we do maybe gear up a sled, that comes with a clutching change, and then it's trying to fine tune the ECU mapping to that. So I'd say a portion of each of it, and it's just finding the right balance of all three.
All right. Well, nice work putting that together. I don't know if people understand how RMSHA works. You and Colby Crapo. Who are all the manufacturer reps for RMSHA that go and put the course together?
Yeah, so there's Colby Crapo from Polaris, and then Clint Cover is the Articat rep, and then myself for Skidoo. And really, a lot of people don't realize is RMSHA is racer owned, so a lot of racers are really good about helping out and stuff, but it's kind of left up to us to kind of help organize some of those things and just make sure it gets done. But really, it is the whole family of RMSHA that helps put all these races on.
Yeah, you go to these races and you see a lot of the drivers out there running snowcats and pushing snow and setting up timing lights and everything. And that Kyle Pulsifer was, I don't know if he was so busy helping out with the last, Bear Lake 2, and he missed his signups for King of Kelly's, unfortunately. But
that's right, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you guys, it's a fun organization. I like seeing changes in this. I think there's some more changes that can be made and get more interest and get more outside money brought in, so these purses grow, and I think that just brings more people in. But good job on King of Kelly's. That was fun.
Yeah, thank you. And it's for sure, I think RMSHA has been heading in a pretty good direction. Have changed some things, and it's growing, and it's, like I said, there's a lot of people involved, and having some, media outlets like, you guys at Snow West starting to showcase some things and show up and stuff has definitely helped. So we're very grateful for that. Just looking forward to the future.
All right, man. Well, good luck at Jackson. We'll see you there next week.
Sweet. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Thanks, Mason. All right, Colby Crapo. Hey, we're just coming off King of Kelly's. This is the 4th race of the season. Now you're one of the factory reps, so you and Mason Rutledge kind of put the course together. Talk about how that went, because you didn't have a ton of room to work with on this race.
No, for sure. So we, Mason, he's a stud. He kind of took charge of everything. But so we went up there Wednesday, helped kind of with the lights, because we weren't sure how any of it was going to work really. So we went Wednesday, kind of got a feel of the lights, and then Thursday morning went up there to set the course. And anybody that's been to Kelly, it's steep, but it's just not very long. So we were kind of trying to figure out how to slow it down enough to to keep us around that minute, but still not have it so tight that you could never get moving. So
yeah, and just so people know, like, you couldn't even use the full mountain because you could only stay on the private land, and then there's a Forest Service boundary that comes across halfway up, so you had to stay kind of in that bottom half. But man, I'm surprised that the run times got up around a minute. I was expecting to be quite a bit shorter.
I honestly was too. I was afraid we were going to be in the 30s, 40-second times. So I was happy to see that they were in a minute. And honestly, it was a lot more technical than I think any of us thought it would be. It was deceivingly slick. Like, And I don't know if it's just that they had tilled the face. So there was like an original 10 inches to a foot of snow, they said, and they had tilled it every night with the groomer. So, man, once we got to that 10 inches, it was slick. So I think everyone was a little surprised how technical it actually got, which, really worked out in our favor.
What do you think about the night setup, racing under the lights? Did you have enough lights? Did that go over well?
Yeah, I thought the vibe was awesome. There's obviously a couple things we need to tweak a little bit. There was one more light that we were supposed to have on the bottom facing up the hill. And I think that would have helped. And a little bit at the top, it was kind of shadowy, but honestly, I mean, all in all, for the first run, I thought it was super cool. And like I said, the vibe was awesome. I don't know, it just had a lot different feel than most of our races do.
It did for sure. Yeah, it was a lot more kind of closer to a Jackson atmosphere, honestly. Like a lot of fun and party, a lot of people hanging out at the bottom because it's just a pretty good venue for that. What was it like racing at night? Like for you personally in your classes, like going through all the old trenches and in those corners with the darkness. How was that?
It was cool. And I mean, you obviously know my background is snowcross.
Yeah.
And so we used to always race at night. And I loved it. And it's weird because you can sometimes see a lot better. If it's kind of a flat light during the day, that's harder to see in than like at night because there is more definition with the lights. So I loved it. It kind of brought back an old snowcross vibe for me. And yeah, I thought it was a great time.
So do you want to see more of these happen in the future for RMSHA, more night races?
Yeah, I would be all for it. I think, I mean, honestly, if we were going to do that, we need to do it more like start everything at noon and just run on through until night rather than starting in the morning and then kind of having that break in the middle there.
Yeah.
And, that's some things I think we'll adjust like going forward. If you just started everything at noon, run on through, about then you'll hit your 900 stuff about when you need lights anyway.
Yeah,
I think if we tweak a couple.
Yeah, sorry, the break was kind of
ahead,
tough. I know a few guys went up there to watch the race, and they got up there right as the break was starting, and there's not really a schedule of knowing, for fans to go up and see that. So yeah, the break was kind of tough. But yeah, like you're talking, it was. I think if you started later, that would and just ran right into the night.
For sure, and I think they, we just didn't know, right? RMSHA's never done it. No one's ever done it, so they wanted to make sure we started early, which. That's no fault of anyone, just kind of some growing pains of it. But yeah, I think if we, in later times start at like everything at noon and then you just run it on through, I mean, I think you could make a great show of it. Like I said, I think people were a little, it was exciting. It was, it seemed more like a Jackson vibe. Nothing against Bear Lake or anything, but sometimes they just get kind of boring a little bit, and that I thought had a really cool element to it where people were excited about it, and that's what we need to see in our sport.
Yeah, for sure, and just the ski hill atmosphere helps too, versus just a field out, a hill out in a field. But
yeah, absolutely.
Nice work on getting this set up. Look forward to more of these events, but nice work, man.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate it. It was cool, the area too. Like you got Rexburg Motorsports, which I deal with, Action, Climb, Snow West. You guys are local. It's cool for our area because I think our area has so many snowmobile enthusiasts that we need to have some stuff, close around here. I think there's a lot of support for it.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, 100%. I would love to see this race continue. Man, I wouldn't mind seeing a couple races at Kelly Canyon every year. It's just...
Yeah, no, honestly, and I think they were happy with it. Those guys seemed really cool. They were great to work with. So I think in the future you'll see some more Kellys, which is awesome.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. All right, Colby, talk to you later, man. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Today's show is brought to you by Polaris. The wait is over. SnowCheck is here. It's your once-a-year chance to build and pre-order your dream mountain sled with exclusive factory customization and up to a 4-year warranty. Be the first to get your hands on new models like the Pro RMK and Chaos RMK, now up to 7 pounds lighter with SnowCheck exclusive colors, customizations, and technology. Or check out RMK SP. That's easier to ride and even easier to own. Stop dreaming and start building. SnowCheck ends March 27th. Talk to your local Polaris dealer or start your build at Polaris.com.